In his first exclusive interview since taking office, African Union Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Youssouf reflects on more than 3 decades of diplomatic service and the steady growth of China-Africa friendship.
China is really a friend to the African countries.
Firmly rejecting attempts to discredit China-Africa cooperation, he says,
"They're wrong because when others were not, interested in developing the infrastructure on the continent, assisting, the African continent on very important sectors, China take the step forward and help us."
He also reaffirms the African Union's unwavering commitment to the One China principle.
We will be on board with China with the issue of One China principle, One China policy, forever.
Exclusive with African Union Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Youssouf. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Leaders Talk, where we meet leaders, thinkers, and trailblazers. I'm So Yun. We're now at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where we'll be speaking with the African Union Commission Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Youssouf. With 2026 designated as China-Africa Year of People-to-People Exchanges, how will the African Union, representing the shared interests of African countries, use this opportunity to deepen exchanges and mutual learning between the two civilizations and work with China to advance modernization? Amid a complex and evolving global landscape, how will the AU help its member states build consensus and make Africa's voice heard more clearly on the world stage? Let's find all these answers from our conversation with Mr. Chairperson.
In Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the African Union headquarters rises prominently, a landmark symbolizing African integration and China-Africa friendship. Built with Chinese assistance, the structure blends modern design with African elements. At its heart lies the Mandela Hall, the main venue for major African Union diplomatic events where moments of African consensus are forged.
Wow.
It's our biggest hall.
It's like United Nations,
Yes,
but it's more renovated.
It can take, I think, up to 2,000 people with the all
To 2,000 people.
2,000 people, yeah.
Where do you usually sit?
In the middle there, up there.
So when you usually sit there witnessing everything, all those African member countries, how do you feel? It's a sense of pride, a sense of, challenging,
A sense of responsibility. You can be proud when you finish your mission, not before.
Mr. Chairperson, thank you so much for having us here at the headquarters of African Union. It's really great to have this opportunity to talk to you. To begin with, could you please help us understand, since we're here, what AU is about, its mandates, as well as its major responsibilities?
Thank you for having me on this interview first. Welcome to the African Union headquarters.
Thank you.
The African Union is a continental organization. It has been established in 1963 by our forefathers after the independence era from the colonial powers. At that time, it was called the Organization of African Unity. And then in 2002, it has evolved to the African Union with a new charter. It has 55 member countries. We do have what we call Agenda 2063, which is our framework, treaties, protocols, agreements, through which we are trying to implement our objectives, which is by 2063 to reach the Africa we want, which is the Africa integrated, peaceful, and prosperous.
And China has attached great importance and significance to developing relations with AU as well as African countries. And since 2013, Chinese President Xi Jinping has sent congratulatory letters to the AU summit for 13 consecutive years. So how do you assess this great significance, great importance of China's leadership place on China-Africa cooperation as well as AU partnership?
We feel that the kind of relationship that the African continent has with China is based on mutual interest, respect, and also mutual understanding. This is something very important for the African member countries of the African Union, because we feel that the era of hegemonic, kind of relationship, the era of dominance has, ended up in the decolonization of our countries. So the African Union member countries have always been looking for that kind of partnership and relationship. And we found it with China. China, over the past 30 years, has been a miracle of development, a very inspiring showcase for all of us. That's why the African member countries have always, tried to create that environment of respectful relationship with China. That's why President Xi launched this One Belt, One Road initiative in 2013. And then other initiatives follow, the initiatives for mediation, and most recently, the Global Initiative for Governance.
That's right.
These are frameworks through which the African countries find their interest in. And that's why yesterday I repeated to Minister Wang Yi that the African Union will support the GGI initiative as we supported other initiatives and also the platform that is called FOCAC. For 26 years, this platform has been very constructive, very helpful for both parties. That's why the African Union member countries have been attending all the sessions, and the last one was in 2024. So I think we have very good framework with China, and we believe that all these initiatives globally of great interest at large for the whole world, and in particular for the African Union member countries.
Mr. Chairperson, you just talked about in 2024, FOCAC, the Beijing summit of FOCAC was successfully held. At that time, actually, you were in Beijing attending this forum as a foreign minister of Djibouti. So now as the chairperson of AUC, how do you read into implementing the outcomes of the summit into the betterment of the people of both China and Africa?
For the past 26 years, I have been attending all FOCAC meetings because I have been in diplomacy now for more than 3 decades. And I think that this is a continuity of the way we make our relationship, Africa-China relationship, evolve. And at each stage, there is a particular sector for interest. We have been building our partnership on infrastructure development for many years. China have been investing in our energy infrastructure, road, railway, etc., ports, logistics, etc. And then we moved to energy development, grids, and so on and so forth. Now we're focusing on peoples-to-peoples relationship. Yes. We need to see the impact of all those investments for so many years. We need to see it in the well-being of our peoples. China has been achieving, miracle figures in terms of uplifting millions of peoples, out of poverty. We need to replicate that on the continent. We need to see hundreds of millions of Africans, be uplifted and extracted from poverty. We are not saying that we will be able to copy the Chinese model, but what we are saying is that we will inspire ourselves, and take, advantage of the whole success story that you have been achieving, in China. I think this is also the core message President Xi has been sending to African leaders. He keeps saying for the past, 10 to 15 years, he keeps saying, let us, work together to exchange on the best practices that we had and brings, prosperity and peace and stability for all peoples. And it's very important also that we look into the 15th five-year Chinese plan, because this is, a framework that will also help us to understand what is the best path towards achieving those goals. We have on our continent what you call the second 10-year plan, in the framework of 2020-63 agenda.
How do you see the enhanced alignment between the two from your perspective?
That's what we are looking for. We are looking for creating that sense of alignment between these two plans, and bridging, the gaps, or building bridges between these two, plans will help us certainly to put the right diagnosis on the problems that we have, and also promoting trade between China and Africa on a balanced way.
And last year, China has announced zero tariff access to exports of all the products from all the 53 African countries with which it has diplomatic relations. How do you interpret the significance of this move in helping or supporting Africa to move forward its trade facilitation and drive its modernization and industrialization?
Let me start by really being grateful to China. When other countries are imposing tariffs and sanctions on the continent, China is opening its heart and doors for the African member countries. So you know your friends when you are in need. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Mm-hmm. So China is really a friend to the African countries. And this is, the best illustration of that friendship.
The year 2026 marks the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and Africa. On January 8, at this new historical juncture, the opening ceremony of the 2026 China-Africa Year of People-to-People Exchanges was held at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. In a congratulatory letter to the ceremony, Chinese President Xi Jinping called on both sides to seize this opportunity to carry forward their traditional friendship, deepen mutual learning among civilizations, and strengthen people-to-people bonds. He emphasized the importance of bringing the hearts, minds, and strengths of more than 2.8 billion people in China and Africa closer together, making fresh contributions to global South solidarity in addressing global challenges and advancing the building of a community with a shared future for humanity.
Well, Chairperson Youssouf, you were there at the opening ceremony and listening to this congratulatory messages from President Xi. So how do you rate into the significance of President Xi's messages, and what is your vision in further promoting and advancing the cultural and people-to-people exchanges between our two sides?
Let me say that we, first of all, thank and congratulate President Xi Jinping for this initiative of making of this year, 2026, the year of partnership between the people of China and peoples of Africa. We believe that in this continent, if we want to succeed in what we are trying to do in Agenda 2063 objectives, it should be people-centered. So I think this concept of creating those bridges between the Chinese people and the African peoples is really an existential issue, because at the end of the day, our political action is in the best interest for the well-being of our people. So we welcome this idea. We have been privileged to host this event here. I think it's really a launching pad for a very rich year of exchanges between our two peoples. So it's really high time that we really focus now on this issue properly and activate all the mechanisms that we have. And thank you for China for bringing this to the table of the African Union.
And some narratives also labeled this cooperation between China and Africa as debt trap diplomacy or even new colonialism. How do you assess these claims?
They are wrong. They are wrong because when others were not, interested in developing the infrastructure on the continent, assisting, the African continent on very important sectors, China take the step forward and help us. So all the criticism around China, creating a backyard for itself on the continent or putting African countries on a debt trap, that's their words. Yes. And also creating a new kind of hegemonic policy, hegemonic relationship on the African continent. We don't believe in that. We believe we are judging, from deeds and what China is doing for the continent. So these deeds, actions, activities, achievements, speaks for themselves. They don't need, we don't need to give more explanations.
Read into the lines.
Yes. Look for yourself. And that explanation, is sufficient just to respond to those criticisms.
Let's talk a little bit about the development of AU, because you've spoken about your vision of an integrated, peaceful Africa that is the best place for Africans to live rather than rushing to countries where they end up suffering. How do you plan to align your vision together with Agenda 2063, which is the key strategic compass, as well as the long-term roadmap for development of AU?
We have 3 very important axes on which we would like to create the conditions of African development. One of the axes is, of course, the industrialization of the continent. You can develop a country on a number of critical sectors, but industrialization is central.
It's a must, yes.
It's a must. So we are working on the transformation of the continent through industrialization. And industrializations have prerequisites. One of them is energy. So we are developing on the continent energy pools everywhere in the regions, relying on renewables, developing our own resources of energies. So this is also, we are making progress. And then we have agriculture, because 80% of African people lives in the rural areas. So transforming agriculture is very important. Relying on smart grains, smart way of irrigation, and developing the capacity of the African continent to increase the production. So transformation is very important. If you have a value chain which helps the Africans, to get the best value of their product instead of exporting raw materials, crops without transformation, tea, coffee, etc., cacao. Now, African countries are really developing their capacity to transform these agricultural products. Industrialization is one of the axes. Transforming the agricultural products is the second axis. And then developing intra-Africa trade. When nations are trading, there is peace between nations and stability. When nations are trading, they are becoming richer. And if intra-Africa trade, which was very, in terms of figure, the first 10 years of the plan, of the Agenda 2063 plan, was very low.
Less than 50% was achieved.
No, even less.
Very challenging.
Yeah, so we are working on how best we can, increase the intra-Africa trade figures. And we're doing it through mechanisms and strategies that we have put in place. One of the mechanisms is the African Continental Free Trade Area. This treaty has been signed, implemented since 2017, and then it has mechanisms inside it. The certificate of origin, the compensation and payments mechanism, etc., etc. This is the third axis. These are the 3 axes on which we are developing our strategy, our communication, our works on the ground.
And back in 2023, the G20 has accepted AU as a full member, with China being the very first major power to clearly and unequivocally support this membership. So how do you see this membership has helped to enhance the representation of the organization in representing the interests of African countries on the global stage?
The G20 is a platform. So when decisions are made for Africa, we need to have our say in those decisions. So this platform helps us to voice our expectations and also to be vocal on the things that we don't understand, that we need to see change, climate change, the decisions globally that is made on financial architecture, the decisions made on UN Security Council.
Today, in a world that is filled with challenges and uncertainties, what is especially crucial for African countries to speak in unison as one voice of Africa, Mr. Chairperson?
Africa is 55 countries. You see, it's a powerful, leverage that we have there. So if we manage to speak as if we were one country, I think we will really make a big difference in the global decision making. So that's why we are working with China and very loyal partners, so that our voice counts and our also expectations be taken on board. And I think it's very important to understand that. If you are not aware of your strength, then you cannot use it. So That's why we are saying we need to be everywhere where decisions are made globally, and in particular when those decisions affect the African peoples and the African continent.
And you've also emphasized that peace efforts are at the forefront of AUC agenda. And as we know that Africa continent now it is still facing with so many significant security challenges, hotspots of instability, and also risks and crises in areas like Sudan, Libya, etc. So what is your vision in bolstering the Africa peace and security architecture?
So we are revisiting our African architecture for peace and security. One of the major reform that we want to see, implemented is the early warning system. Prevention is better than resolving the crisis.
Yes.
So we are focusing on prevention. And then when we have a crisis, we need to have the tools to resolve that crisis. The African standby force is one of the tools. We need to deploy quickly forces to help this country to stabilize the country. Prevention, having the tools and the means, and then we have the African Peace Fund, the resources. There is not much money in it. These are the three elements of our new peace architecture that we want to see be put in place very soon.
And also about a week ago, the entire world was shocked by the sudden change of situation in Venezuela, with the United States launched large-scale military strikes and forcefully seizing President Maduro and his wife. So, Mr. Chairperson, what is the official stance of AU in the latest developments in Venezuela?
The international law, the rules and regulations of the international system should be really respected. We at the African Union, disapproved completely, kidnapping of a sitting president.
Yes.
We issued and released a communique asking, these global powers, influential countries, to respect the rule of law, to respect the international law, and also to respect the immunity of the sitting presidents everywhere. So this is our position on the African continent.
Well, against this backdrop of global uncertainties, challenges, uneven recovery, how do you interpret the significance of the four major initiatives proposed by President Xi, the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, as well as the Global Governance Initiative?
It's very important that a country, global superpower, takes that lead. And I'm sure that so many countries in the global south will support it. Now, it's not a competitive issue. It's not a competition between the Western world and the global south. We don't want to place this relationship between the south and the north on the basis of rivalry, competition that could be detrimental to our global interest. Mm-hmm. We need to save the multilateral system. And this is a new initiative proposed by President Xi. So we need to build on the basis of this initiative a new system. This is the African Union position.
You've met with President Xi a couple of times. The first time, I believe, was back in 2009, and then in different occasions. So what is your impression of President Xi as a leader?
He's a leader. He's a global leader. Mm-hmm. I met him even before he becomes president,
yes,
when he was vice president.
Yes.
And he has, what it takes to be a leader, a global leader. The development he achieved in China speaks for himself, for him. And I think that this is the illustration of real leadership. Leaderships oriented for the well-being of the people, the country, and also a leadership with take on board the expectations of neighbors and others throughout the world. That's leadership, and we appreciate that.
What is the stance of AUC on upholding the One China principle, and what is your take on some of the attempts by certain countries to interfere with China's Taiwan question?
This issue of One China principle is something that we share and adhere to because we live the same thing on the continent. I think Chinese border, are also as sacred as the African countries' borders. That's why we believe in One China principle, One China, because we don't support the idea of secessionists, regions, and most recently, Somaliland was one of the most recent cases in the African continent. So that's why we believe that in serving and supporting the One China policy, the One China principle, we are helping ourselves on the continent. because we are living the same challenge. So that's why we will be on board with China with the issue of one China principle, one China policy, forever.
Chairperson Youssouf, you are the longest-serving foreign minister of Djibouti from 2005 to 2025. That's about 2 decades. So now shifting from serving the foreign policy of a single country to now leading a continental body with over 50 stakeholders, member states. What are the biggest differences, and how has your multilateral diplomacy helped you to adjust to this new position?
I moved from a comfort zone to a very challenging position.
In what way?
So many work, many crises, and it's a continental job. It's not something, just restricted to a country. So it's very tough. Mm-hmm. If I can serve more people, from this position of our continent and throughout the world, and I think I will be very much, honored to do it. And I think it's a very interesting position, very tough and challenging. I don't sleep much.
Travel a lot.
Don't have time for family. But that's, a challenge. And I accept it to, shoulder it. And let's hope that I will try to do this, this responsibility the best I can.
This year marks the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and Africa. So looking forward, what is your outlook on this relation?
Very optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I'm a good friend to China for so many years, and I know we will help each other to make this relationship even grow better. So we will work to make this relationship grow fast.
Finally, the Chinese Spring Festival, the Year of the Horse, is coming up in February. Could you please share your wishes to our Chinese audiences through our shows?
Happy New Year to all our Chinese friends. I know that in a month now you will be celebrating the new year. This year is the horse year.
Yes.
So I wish all the best to the Chinese friends and people.
Thank you so much for the good wishes. And Mr. Chairperson, also thank you so much for this great interview and for sharing with us your very insightful views. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me on this platform.
During the exclusive interview, President Youssouf said that Africa-China friendship is based on mutual respect and a common vision for peaceful development. And China is a partner that Africa can fully trust and rely on. At a time when unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise, it's even more necessary for Africa and China to deepen their partnership and strengthen cooperation to better benefit the people of both sides. With that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Leaders Talk. I'm Zoe reporting from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Thank you for watching and see you next time.